In the beginning of the drama, we see the male lead, whose name is Sumu, who is a very innocent type of boy. He is flying an aircraft and telling someone about its speed. In the next scene, we see the female lead, whose name is Tian, who is a very mischievous type of girl. She is riding her scooter while singing. Suddenly, she sees that same aircraft coming towards her and says, "Why is it following me?" Then she thinks, "I am driving fast." And then looking towards the aircraft, she says, "Hey officer, is that you? I am driving the scooter fast." And then she quickly gets off the scooter and says, "Who are you? Say something," and points a stick towards it. Just then, the aircraft starts to fall on Tian. Tian's stick hits the aircraft and Tian herself falls into the mud. Just then, Sumu comes and picks up the aircraft, which is now broken. Tian says, "Why didn't you save me?" Saying this, as soon as Tian comes in front of Sumu, they both start looking at each other. Something from the aircraft has fallen and is stuck on Tian's clothes, so Sumu starts to go near her, and Tian says, "What are you doing?" Then Tian says, "Is this yours? It was following me, that's why I fell in the mud, and you didn't save me." Just then, some people also gather there and ask Tian, "Are you okay?" Tian says, "He is the boy because of whom I fell." Just then, as Sumu starts to leave, people grab him and say, "You won't go until you tell us something. Tell us, what is this thing?" But Sumu doesn't say anything. Just then, a lady says, "I think it is used to click photos. You were secretly clicking photos. Tell us, what is the matter? Why don't you say something?" Hearing this, Sumu moves his lips, and Tian sees him. Just then, the lady says, "Let's call the police." So Tian says, "Oh no, I think he is deaf." Then she says to Sumu, "Listen, do you know how to talk?" But Sumu still doesn't say anything, so Tian says, "I know sign language." And then, while signing, she says to Sumu, "Did you click my photo with this aircraft?" Just then, a boy comes there and says, "This looks like a new aircraft. This isn't a camera, and it's new in the market." And then the boy says to Tian, "If you look at it truthfully, you have broken his gadget. You should give him money." Then everyone starts saying, "You will have to pay for it." So Tian says, "Okay, I'll give the money." As soon as Tian takes out her phone, its battery is dead. That's why she writes her number on a page and gives it to him. As soon as Sumu is about to grab the page flies away and Sumu grabs Tian's hand. And once again, they both start looking at each other. Now, as soon as Tian tries to free her hand, she starts to fall backward. So Sumu grabs her hand, but then Sumu suddenly pulls his hand back, which causes Tian to fall. In the next scene, we see Tian's mom and dad, who are standing outside their new ice cream bar. Just then, Tian arrives and her mom says, "What happened to her?" So the dad says, "What could have happened? She must have fallen in some mud or something." Now, after a little while, Tian changes her dress and goes to her mom and dad and says, "Mom, Dad, I need to talk to you about something important." So her mom says, "Yes, speak." So Tian says, "I failed the exam, but I have decided that I will take the exam again." So her mom says, "And then?" Tian says, "And until next year I will work with you." So her dad says, "You didn't pass the exam, so it's okay, but you said you will work with us. Have you really thought it through?" Mom says, "You have spent whole days with us for the past few years, so your father and I don't get to spend quality time together." So Tian says, "Is it my fault?" So the dad says, "No, but because of your exam, I didn't include you in the plan." Tian says, "What plan?" So the dad says, "I have made a plan to go on a tour with your mom. It's a very good plan." So Tian, a little shocked, asks, "Is this a plan for just the two of you?" So the dad and mom say bye and leave from there. Now, as soon as her mom and dad leave, Tian starts to hang a signboard, but the board isn't fitting there. So Tian starts looking at it, but just then she sees Sumu and asks him, "What are you doing here?" Sumu doesn't say anything to her and goes into the ice cream bar. So Tian tries to stop him, saying, "Don't go inside," but just then she loses her balance and is about to fall. But her dress gets stuck on something, which leaves Tian hanging, and she starts to scream. After a little while, when Sumu comes out, Tian says, "Listen, brother, please give me your hand. Help me." So Sumu extends his hand towards her, but after fixing the signboard, he starts to leave. So Tian says, "Are you a donkey? Come back." But Sumu doesn't listen to her and leaves. In the next scene, Tian asks Mumu. Mumu was the manager of that ice cream shop and also a good friend of Tian. "Why did that boy come here?" So Mumu says, "He must have come to buy ice cream, but the shop hadn't opened, which is why he must have left." So Tian says, "This boy has come like a nightmare." Mumu says, "Do you know him?" So Tian says, "He is the same boy because of whom I fell in the mud, and because of him I was left hanging at the signboard spot." So Mumu says, "By the way, the boy is handsome, isn't he?" So Tian says, "You are not understanding what I'm saying." So Mumu says, "I know, it's bad luck." Tian says, "Really?" Mumu says, "Yes, you are having bad luck these days, and a boy is about to enter your life who will either get you out of this bad luck, or perhaps he might make it even worse." Tian says, "So what do I have to do?" Mumu says, "If you meet him again, you must not be alone with him. or something very bad will happen. In the next scene, Sumu is sitting when Wang is the CEO of that company, comes there and starts asking him many questions. But Sumu puts a sticky note on his mouth, so Wang goes and tells Mia. Mia was the boss manager of this company. Mia says, he can't talk again? So Wang says, it's been a long time. It seems like the stress has hit him recently. So Mia says, he doesn't mingle with people easily. Excitement, nervousness, tension, it increases his stress. We need to help him relax soon. Mia says, I don't know how much time this will take. Wang says, usually drinking cold water provides some relief, but it can take 2 to 3 days. But this time, his condition is even worse. In the next scene, one employee asks another, hey, where are you going again and again? So the second employee says, to get a glass of cold water for Sumu. So the employee says, yes, it's very hot anyway. So the second employee says, if you want to eat ice cream, then order it. In the next scene, Mumu gets a call from someone ordering ice cream. So Mumu says, sorry, the shop is closed today. Tian Tian takes the phone and says, we can absolutely make it available. In the next scene, Wang's girlfriend comes to meet him. Wang says, what are you doing here? So she says angrily, you don't come to meet me, so I thought I would come to meet you. So Wang says, I am very busy these days. So the girlfriend says, and you are busy with other girls. Wang says, no, we are boyfriend and girlfriend, but we can go on separate dates. It doesn't matter to me. I like you a lot, but I am not your slave. Hearing this, the girl throws water on Wang's face. So Wang says, hey, what happened to you all of a sudden? Are you okay now? So the girl, throwing water on his face again, says, absolutely not. But there is no water in the glass. So Wang says, thank God it's finished. Just then, Tian Tian holds out an ice cream and gestures for her to throw it. She calls Wang a fool and leaves. So Wang's girlfriend throws the ice cream on his face. In the next scene, Tian Tian is standing in the lift and sees that she has only one ice cream left and says, well, this is enough. Just then, the lift door opens and Sumu also gets into the same lift. Tian Tian is shocked to see him and says, why are you here? Sumu takes the ice cream from her hand. Tian Tian says, what are you doing? You! Just then, Sumu takes a bite of the ice cream and finds it very good. And after eating the ice cream, he looks at Tian and smiles, which Tian finds weird. And she says, brother, what do you want? You want money? I can give you money. But Sumu just keeps smiling. Just then, the lift door opens and Sumu gets out, looks at Tian, smiles again, and leaves, which Tian Tian finds very strange. In the next scene, Tian Tian goes for a drink with Mumu. There, Mumu says, it seems he will be a very important person in your life. Tian Tian says, a man who wants my life? Mumu says, do you think he is your better half? So Tian Tian says, his lips, his eyes, and his smile. Mumu says, how was it? Tian Tian says, it wasn't that bad. Mumu says, I thought about it. Has any boy ever come into your life before besides Li Di? In the next scene, Mia takes Sumu to a house and says, freshen up, I'll do the cleaning. In the next scene, Tian Tian's mom tells her, I have washed the clothes. You go to sleep, and I have to leave tomorrow. Tian Tian says, Mom, wash these too. So her mom tells her, wash them yourself. Just then, her mom looks at the house opposite them and says, this has been closed for so many years, right? Then who is inside? Tian Tian says, yes. Then her mom tells Tian, go to sleep. In the next scene, Sumu is again flying the same aircraft, and Sumu had come to live in the house opposite Tian Tian's. Just then, the aircraft falls on the roof of Tian Tian's house because that day, a chip from the aircraft had gotten stuck on Tian Tian's clothes. In the next scene, Tian is bathing in the bathtub and singing a song at the same time. Just then, Sumu comes and rings the bell, but Tian Tian doesn't open the door because she is busy bathing. So Sumu enters through her roof, and after picking up his aircraft, he starts to leave. But from behind, Tian Tian comes with her bra, and, upon seeing Sumu, screams loudly and says, pervert! Saying this, she throws her bra and goes inside. And after a little while, she comes back with a knife and says, you barged into my house in broad daylight. Accept what you did. Don't move. I will count to 3, then I will throw the knife. Just then, Tian says, 1, 2 dots, and throws the knife. The knife goes and sticks in the middle of a watch. Sumu start looking at it. Tian Tian says, don't you worry, I have another one. Just then, Sumu takes off his cap and Tian Tian says, wait, you? It's you. What are you doing in my house? Tell me, or I will hand you over to the police. So Sumu shows her the key to his house. So Tian Tian says, what is this? You are my neighbor. When did you come here and why are you living here? What is your plan? Tell me the truth. You came to bother me. You came like a statue. Now just go. So Sumu, instead of going from the upper path, goes from the lower path. So Tian Tian says, where are you going? That's the wrong way. You want your money back, right? I will give it to you. But Sumu doesn't listen to her and starts to go via the lower path. Just then, there are policemen standing in front. One policeman says, "What is happening here?" The second policeman tells him, "Don't you understand? The girl wants the boy not to go. She wants to stop him." So the policeman says to Sumu, "Ooh, your friend wants to stop you. She needs you. Why don't you stay for a while?" And then the police say to Tien, "You want your friend to stay, so say something nice. Put the knife behind you." Tien says, "It's not like that." So the policeman says, "Then what is it?" So the second policeman says, "Fights happen between couple. We can understand, but don't disturb your neighbors." Saying this, they leave. In the next scene, Tien is in the ice cream bar. Just then, 3 boys arrive, one of whom is named Li Di. He says to Tien, "We need 2 cups of ice cream." So Tien says, 100 cups? Can you all eat that? Li Di says, "If I want to, I can." Tien says, "Are you joking?" Li Di says, "Yes, I am. What will you do?" Tien throws an ice cream cup and says, "How about this?" So Li Di, laughing, says, "Sister," and Li Di's friends also say, "Have a good day, sister. Take care of yourself." Li Di says, "We heard you had an opening, so we came to help." So Tien says, "You came at the right time. Go and deliver all this to that company." Li Di and his friends were acting as Tien's brother. In the next scene, Wang goes to Mia and says, "Today again, Sumu is not talking." So Mia says, "How can this be? Now I have taken him to where we used to live, and that is a very peaceful place." Wang says, "We should find a psychologist." So Mia says, "It's been going on like this for many years. Sumu has never taken medicine. He cools down by drinking cold water, and I don't understand how he got better so quickly yesterday." Just then Wang says, "Ice cream." Mia says, "What? Can ice cream relieve anxiety?" Wang says, "I don't know, but we should bring some for him." Mia says, "He really likes cold things. You go get some ice cream for him." In the next scene, Sumu is walking. Just then, Li Di is coming running fast and is about to collide with Sumu and says, "Sorry, I didn't see." Just then, Sumu sees the ice cream and goes to Tien's ice cream parlor. Tien says to Mumu, "He's here." Mumu says, "Who's here?" Tien says, "That same boy." Mumu says, "So what should we do now?" So Tien sends Mumu to Sumu. So Mumu goes to Sumu and says, "Hello, sir. Here is our menu card." Sumu takes an ice cream. So Mumu brings that ice cream and gives it to him. When Sumu takes a bite of that ice cream, he doesn't like it. That's why he asks her, "Bring another flavor." When Mumu brings another ice cream, Sumu doesn't like this one either. So he puts a tick mark on a lot of ice creams. So Mumu says to Tien, he wants the whole shop. Tien says, "What does he want after all?" So Mumu says, "It seems he is looking for you." So Tien says, "Looking for me? I'll show him right now." And then Tien prepares an ice cream, puts a lot of dry fruits on top of it, takes it to him and says, "Your ice cream. And what is your name? What do you want and what have you come here to do?" Sumu doesn't say anything and starts tasting the ice cream. So Tien reads his name from his card and says, "Sumu, you are from the company across the street?" Sumu likes that ice cream a lot, and he again becomes happy looking at Tien, smiles, and leaves. So Mumu asks, "What did he say to you?" Tien says, "He can't speak." Mumu says, "What did he do?" Tien says, "He was smiling at me." In the next scene, Sumu is going in the lift. Just then, Li Di also gets into the same lift and asks Sumu, "Who is this Wang?" Sumu doesn't say anything, so Li Di says, "You don't know, right? He is also in this company." Just then, the lift door opens and Wang is standing outside. Sumu says to Li Di, "This is Wang." Wang says, "Oh, you can speak again." Sumu says, "Why? You don't want me to?" Li Di says, "Here is your parcel." So Wang takes the parcel and follows Sumu and says, "Look, I don't want that. I brought ice cream to help you." Sumu says, "I don't need it." Wang says, "Okay, now you can speak." In the next scene, Mumu says to Tien, "I have observed something about him, that even when he is against you, he works with you. If he is good for you, he can bring luck." Tien says, "Really?" Mumu says, "But you will have to go alone with him." "Okay, let all this go. He is really very cute." Tien says, "Oh, be quiet." In the next scene, Tien is going home. But on the way, her scooter breaks down. So Tien gets off and starts looking at it and says, "I am already tired, and how do I fix this?" Just then, Sumu is passing by. So Tien sees him and makes a face. Just then, Sumu comes back. So Tien gets scared seeing him and says, "What is your problem? You just pop up from anywhere. You scared me." So Sumu extends his hand forward, and Tien gives him a screwdriver. So Sumu fixes her scooter and leaves from there. In the next scene, Sumu goes home and takes out ice cream from his fridge and starts eating it. But he doesn't like that ice cream, so he throws away all the ice cream and stands by the window. Just then, he sees that Tien is dancing on the roof of her house, looking very cute. So Sumu is smiling looking at her. As soon as Tian Tian turns her face this way, Sumu pulls the curtain forward and thinks, is all this happening because of her? In the next scene, Tian Tian is having some fun in her house, but just then she feels hungry, so she orders some food. Over here, Sumu takes his aircraft and rings the bell of Tian Tian's house. So Tian Tian thinks that the delivery boy has arrived so quickly, but just then, she sees Sumu there. Seeing him, Tian Tian says, "You are here again? What do you want?" Sumu pauses for a bit and says, "I want you." Hearing this, Tian Tian is shocked. So Sumu says, "Teach me how to make ice cream." So Tian Tian says, "Say it. What do you want? You want me to teach you how to make ice cream? But why?" So Sumu, showing the aircraft, says, "I need to collect money to fix this." So Tian Tian says, "Oh, it's not that I don't want to give you money, but because of your attitude, I won't give you the money." Sumu says, "I don't want money from you." So Tian Tian starts thinking, he doesn't want money, so what does he want after all? Sumu says, "I want you to teach me how to make ice cream." Tian Tian says, "Okay, I will teach you how to make ice cream, but promise me you will stop bothering me." Sumu says, "Okay." So Tian Tian says, "At your house or my house?" Sumu says, "At my house." So Tian is about to go to his house right then, but Sumu says, "But you can't come to my house right now. Come to my house tomorrow morning at 7 o'clock, okay?" Hearing this, poor Tian Tian feels embarrassed and says, "Okay, I will come. And anyway, my parcel was about to arrive. I was waiting for the delivery boy." In the next scene, Tian Tian is not able to sleep. She tries a lot to sleep, but she can't. And over here, Sumu also can't sleep, so he starts reading a book. Here, Tian Tian also starts reading a book, but still, she can't sleep. So she goes to the roof and sees that the light in Sumu's house is on. So Tian Tian says, it seems he is also very excited for tomorrow. That's why he couldn't sleep. Just then, the light in Sumu's house turns off, and Tian Tian makes a bit of a strange face seeing this. In the next scene, Sumu is waiting for Tian Tian in his house. He looks at the time and it's already 7:28. In the next scene, Tian Tian is sleeping in her house. Just then, her mobile's alarm rings, and Tian turns off the alarm with great difficulty and goes back to sleep. But just then, she remembers that today she had to go to Sumu's house, so she gets up immediately. But just then, the doorbell rings. So Tian Tian goes and opens the door and is shocked to see Sumu. Sumu says, "You are late." Tian Tian is about to say something to him, but as soon as Sumu looks at her, Tian Tian says, "You are so cool and nice. You take care of everything so well." And then, without changing her dress, she goes with Sumu. So Sumu takes her through the back door of his house, and after reaching the house, he tells her, "Take off your slippers." So Tian Tian takes off those slippers and puts on another pair, and she throws those slippers right there. But Sumu puts his shoes on one side and sees Tian's shoes, which were scattered. So he puts her slippers aside as well. Tian Tian is quite surprised to see this. Now, as soon as Tian enters the kitchen, she says, "Oh wow, you have prepared so well." Sumu says, "You can start." And just then, Sumu gets a call. Now, as soon as Tian starts making ice cream, Sumu starts writing down each and every ingredient and also talking on the phone. Now the ice cream is ready, so Tian Tian puts it to cool down and says to Sumu, "Listen, it will only take 20 minutes. Saying this, she herself starts looking around and goes near his aircraft and changes the direction of its fan. So Sumu sees this and comes and changes the direction of the aircraft fan back to where it was. So Tian Tian mumbles something and again changes the direction of that fan. But Sumu again comes and corrects its direction. So Tian Tian sees this and starts smiling and is about to touch it again when Sumu sees her. So Tian Tian says, No, I'm not touching it," and again starts to wander here and there, and then, hiding from him, she starts applying lipstick. Now, after some time, the ice cream is ready. So Tian Tian puts the ice cream in a bowl and says, "Look, it's done." So Sumu says, "Okay, you can go." And taking the ice cream, he says, "What kind of people are there?" Hearing this, Tian Tian gets very angry, but she picks up her mobile and lipstick and leaves. Now, when Sumu tastes that ice cream, he likes it very much. In the next scene, Sumu makes ice cream himself, following those ingredients. And when he tastes it, he doesn't like the ice cream at all. That's why Sumu says, this is something else entirely. When she hid, it means she mixed something wrong. In the next scene, Tian Tian goes to take a bath, but the faucet is broken. So Tian Tian starts to fix it, and just then, the doorbell rings. So Tian Tian goes and opens the door, and it's Sumu. So Tian Tian says, "Tell me, how else can I help you?" Sumu says, "You made the ice cream, but you didn't teach me." Tian Tian says, "You were busy at that time, right? But right now I was washing clothes, and the water pipe also broke, so I can't come right now." Sumu says, "I'll fix it." So Sumu, smiling, says, "Okay." So Sumu goes to fix the pipe, and Tian Tian sits right there. Just then, Tian Tian gets a video call from her mom, and Tian starts talking to them. Just then, Sumu comes from behind and asks, "Where is the wrench?" So Tian Tian says, "It's in the toolbox under the sink." So her mom asks, "Who is this?" Tian Tian says, "He is a plumber, just came for repairs." So her mom says, such a handsome boy is a plumber? Tian Tian says, he is handsome. Just then, Sumu comes again, but this time he comes down and gets close to Tian Tian, picks up the wrench, and leaves. So the mom says, this boy is more than handsome. Tian Tian says, oh mom, now stop looking. Now, as soon as Tian Tian hangs up the call and gets up, Sumu is standing in front of her. So Tian starts looking at him. Just then, Sumu says, your pipe is fixed. Saying this, he starts to leave. So Tian Tian says, wait, I'm getting ready and coming. So Sumu says, okay. In the next scene, Tian is thinking, Sumu really is handsome. And then she says, I am also very beautiful. And then she starts to get ready nicely. In the next scene, Tian Tian gets ready nicely and goes to Sumu's house. When Sumu opens the door, he looks at Tian Tian from top to bottom. Tian Tian thinks that she is looking very good. But our Sumu was a very innocent type of boy, so he says, you went to get ready? Hearing this, Tian Tian is a little surprised and says, I didn't want to make you wait. And then, getting angry, she follows him. Now, as Tian goes inside, she puts on music and starts listening. So Sumu says, shall we start? Tian Tian says, I have already started. I mean, when I played the music, it started then. We can never ignore the power of music, and that is our secret ingredient. Sumu says, but you didn't play it last time. Tian Tian says, I didn't play it. I was listening in my heart. You couldn't hear it. And how could you? That's why I am playing it. Write it down. And then, naming each and every thing, she starts teaching him to make ice cream. Just then, Sumu points out her mistakes. So Tian Tian says, I thought you didn't talk, but you talk a lot. Saying this, Tian Tian fixes her hair, which was bothering her. So Sumu goes and brings a ribbon and starts to tie her hair. So Tian Tian becomes a little happy. So Sumu says, I thought your hair might fall into the ice cream. Hearing this, Tian Tian gets angry again. So Tian Tian gives him all the ingredients to mix and says, last time, when I broke your aircraft, you were trying to fix it, but I go outside to sketch. Have you never seen? So Sumu says, don't you think you are talking nonsense? Hearing this, Tian Tian starts to scold him and says, you are not doing it right. Do it like this. Mix it well so that nothing is left in it. And then pour this mixture into this. And now put it to cool. It will be ready in 20 minutes. Saying this, Tian Tian stands with her arms crossed. So Sumu also looks at her and stands with his arms crossed. Now, as soon as 20 minutes are complete, they both are about to pick up the ice cream, but in this process, Sumu grabs Tian's hand. So Tian Tian quickly pulls her hand back and says, you take it out. So Sumu goes and is about to pick up 2 small bowls. Just then, Tian Tian says, now you must have understood. So Sumu puts 1 bowl back and says, okay, the work is done. In the next scene, Tian Tian goes to her house and says, this time I ignored him. Good. Now I won't have regrets either. And then she touches her hair, takes off the ribbon, and becomes happy that he tied her hair. And then she thinks, where did he get the ribbon from? Does he have a girlfriend? And thinking this, she becomes a little sad. In the next scene, Sumu, like Tian, plays music and enjoys it while making ice cream. And after making the ice cream, when he tastes it, this time too the ice cream doesn't turn out that way. So Sumu says, how strange. It still didn't turn out that way. This means I have to have her make the ice cream. In the next scene, Sumu is making an aircraft while eating the ice cream made by Tian Tian. Just then, his ice cream finishes. Over here, Tian Tian is also going somewhere to paint, and Sumu is also watching her. In the next scene, Tian Tian is sitting at a place and painting, and at the same place, he is flying his aircraft. And with that aircraft, there was also a camera. And that aircraft goes towards Tian Tian because of that chip. So Tian Tian sees it and stands up and says, okay, you want to take my picture? Just then, the aircraft starts coming towards Tian Tian. So Tian Tian says, wait, let me pose first, right? It won't be my fault if my picture doesn't come out nice. Saying this, Tian Tian starts to pose and then starts to pack her things. Just then, the aircraft starts coming towards Tian Tian at a high speed. So Sumu comes and puts his hand forward, due to which he also gets hurt. So Tian Tian says, you got hurt. Sumu says, yes, just a little. So Tian Tian takes a ribbon from her hand and ties it on him and says, is it okay now? So Sumu says, there was no need for a bandage for a small wound, and the aircraft is broken again. Tian Tian says, what happened? If the wound remains open, it won't heal properly. Besides, you saved me from the aircraft. Can I do even this much for your wound? Sumu sits down and starts looking at his aircraft. So Tian Tian says, should I fix it? So Sumu starts looking at her and says, this is my problem, and besides, I didn't think it would hit you. Tian Tian says, no, I am having bad luck these days. Sumu says, teach me how to make ice cream, and I will get rid of your bad luck. So Tian Tian says, your hand is injured. How will you make ice cream? Come on, let it be. Besides, it's not like you eat ice cream every day. Sumu says, I have to eat it every day. Tian Tian, smiling, says, why are you joking? Sumu says, I have a habit of drinking cold water, so I eat ice cream. This way, I don't have to drink water, and my mind works better. Tian Tian, laughing, says, you are so strange. I mean, you are a good boy. Very cute, really. And they both start looking at each other. So Tian Tian says, by the way, to thank you, I can give you more ice cream. You can keep it in the fridge. So Sumu says, I can't control myself and end up eating all the ice cream. So Tian Tian says, then what should we do? Okay, I will deliver ice cream to you daily. Sumu says, how? Tian Tian says, oh my god, why do you need an answer for everything? Sumu says, you are very boring. Tian Tian says, I don't seem like it. Okay, you can come at 7 o'clock at night. Sumu says, if you make it at night, what will I eat the next day? Tian Tian says, anyway, at night would be better. Sumu says, yes, that way you won't come in the morning anyway. And in this way, for a few days, Tian Tian goes to Sumu's house every day to make ice cream, and seeing Sumu happy, Tian Tian also becomes very happy. In the next scene, Tian Tian and Sumu are together. So Tian Tian says, listen, by the time you come back, I will make ice cream for you. You feel completely fresh after eating my ice cream, right? And your mind starts working perfectly. So Sumu asks, why do you always come here? Tian Tian says, it feels so good to breathe in the open air. I want a house in front of the mountains and the sea. How nice it would be to see the sea during the day and the stars at night, right? How do you like the idea? Sumu says, you are such an idiot. Tian Tian says, yes, for that, I need the government's permission and a lot of money, which I don't have. Saying this, she becomes sad. So Sumu starts looking at her. So Tian Tian says, have you gone mad? Come on, sit down. Just then, Sumu and Tian get a call from someone, and they both say, yes, we are coming right now. So Sumu says, I have to go quickly. Tian Tian says, I am also going to the shop. Come on, sit down. So Sumu starts looking at her. So Tian Tian says, well, what are you looking at? Come on, sit down. So Sumu says, yes, yes, and he sits behind her on the scooter. In the next scene, Tian Tian reaches her ice cream bar and Sumu also goes to the company. Tian Tian says to Mumu, yes, what happened? So Mumu says, look at this signboard. It's not getting any current. So Tian Tian says, I was scared, so I didn't install it. And then Tian Tian starts to install the signboard. Just then, Sumu also comes and starts helping her, and Tian Tian and Sumu are also smiling at each other. Mumu was also just watching both of them. Just then, the signboard is installed, and Tian Tian says thank you to him. Sumu leaves from there without saying anything. So Tian Tian is smiling looking at him when Mumu asks, are you two in a relationship? So Tian Tian doesn't say anything. Now, we see a scene from a little later where Mumu says to Tian Tian, congratulations, girl. All this happened so quickly. I can't believe it. It's only been a few days and you two are already in a relationship. Tian Tian says, no, girl. Again, the same thing. So Mumu says, if you are not in a relationship, then why did he come to help you? Tian Tian says, now that I am helping him, he came to help me. Mumu says, you are doing him a favor? Tian Tian says, I am making ice cream. Just then, Mumu says, the signboard light has been on for a long time. Customers are not coming either. Should we close the shop? Tian Tian says, won't it be too early? You go and rest. Mumu says, yes, won't you go? Tian Tian says, I will stay and go after cleaning. Mumu says, all the cleaning is already done. Oh, you are going to wait for him, right? Tian Tian says, no, it's not like that. I promised to give him ice cream, so I will give it and then go. Mumu says, okay, fine. I am leaving, and you wait for him then. After Mumu leaves, Tian Tian starts waiting. Just then, after a little while, Sumu comes, and Tian Tian says, you wait, I'll go get the ice cream. And then she goes and brings the ice cream and says, this is for thank you. So Sumu says, thank you. And as he is about to leave, Tian says, aren't you going home? Sumu says, I will go, and you should go home too. Rest well. Tian Tian sadly says, yes, and sees Sumu leaving in a car. In the next scene, Sumu goes home with Mia, and Mia stays there. Over here, when Tian Tian is about to go to her house, she sees a car outside Sumu's house and starts thinking, who is this? Is it a boy or a girl? And it's so late. Why haven't they gone to their own house? On the other side, Sumu is smiling looking at Tian's pictures. Just then, Mia comes and says, you haven't slept yet. Sumu says, you haven't slept either. Mia says, girl, I can't sleep. This is not my bed, you know. So Sumu says, there is a pillow on my bed. Take it, maybe you'll be able to sleep. So Mia says, come on, you two, let's go together. So Sumu goes with her and turns off the light. On the other side, when Tian Tian sees the house lights off, Tian Tian says, they even turned off the lights. It must be a girl. Besides, there was a ribbon from his house too. It must be a girl. Anyway, it doesn't matter to me. After a little while, Tian Tian brings some food items and lies down on the swing and says, I have to see who you are. I will wait right here. Now, while waiting, Tian Tian falls asleep right there. The next morning, when she wakes up and looks from above, she sees Sumu leaving with Mia. Seeing this, Tian Tian is shocked. Seeing Sumu laughing with Mia, Tian Tian gets very jealous and says, in front of me, he acts like a lion, and with her, he's a scaredy cat. Now, as Mia starts to fix Sumu's hair, our Tian Tian gets even more jealous. In the next scene, Tian Tian goes to the ice cream bar, and Moo Moo says, "Are you okay? And did you sleep on the grass last night?" Tian Tian explains, "I accidentally fell asleep on the roof." Then Tian Tian asks Moo Moo, "If a girl goes to work with a boy, what is the relationship between them?" Moo Moo says, "They might be colleagues, or maybe they are riding together." So Tian Tian says, "If she stays at his house, then what is the matter?" Moo Moo says, "Yes, then it's possible they are girlfriend and boyfriend." Hearing this, our Tian gets a little sad. So Moo Moo says, "It's possible that they are very good friends." Hearing this, Tian Tian feels a little relaxed and says, "Yes, you're right, just like Li Di and I used to go to school together." And then she asks, No. If that girl touches the boy's hair," Moo Moo says, "anything can happen, but if she touches his hair in a public place, then they are definitely a couple." Hearing this, Tian Tian gets very angry. So Moo Moo says, "Listen, the person you are talking about, could it be your Sumu?" So Tian Tian says angrily, "It's nothing like that. There's no need to think such nonsense. He has nothing to do with it." Moo Moo says, Okay, fine." In the next scene, we see Sumu in the company, who is sitting very sadly. That's why he starts cycling in his company. And over here, our poor Tian Tian is also sad and sometimes shoots arrows, sometimes walks around. And finally, getting fed up, she says to Moo Moo, "I am going home. I am very tired today." Moo Moo says, "By the way, you didn't work that much today." Tian Tian says, "I didn't sleep last night, that's why." Saying this, Tian Tian starts to leave. Just then, a car is coming from the front, due to which Tian Tian loses her balance and falls into the grass. Tian Tian gets very angry, but what could she do? Our Tian Tian's bad luck was ongoing these days. In the next scene, Sumu goes into his house, and when he looks at Tian Tian's house, he doesn't see her anywhere. But just then, after a little while, Tian Tian comes home drunk with Li Di, and Sumu sees her. Now, Li Di takes Tian Tian home, and Tian Tian is wishing him a happy birthday. Li Di tells her, "You shouldn't have drunk so much." Tian Tian says, "I can still drink more. Wait, I can bring some for you." Li Di says, No, I am going home." So Tian Tian wishes him a happy birthday one more time and gives him a gift. So Li Di says, "Thank you," to her and leaves. Now, seeing Li Di leave, Sumu goes to Tian Tian's house and starts ringing her bell loudly and repeatedly. So Tian Tian says, "What happened?" And as she sees Sumu, she says angrily, "What is it?" Sumu says, "Why are you not picking up my call?" Tian Tian says, "Which call?" "Oh, you called? Tell me, what do you want?" Sumu says, "Why didn't you make ice cream for me?" Tian Tian says, "I remember, I'll make it later." He says, "You have been drinking." Tian Tian says, "No, I haven't." Just then, a car stops in front of Sumu's house. So Tian Tian says, "Leave me, you pay attention to that." But in that car is Wang. Seeing this, Tian thinks, "Fool, where did he come from?" Wang comes there and says, "Hey, how is she here?" Tian Tian says angrily, "What do you mean, how am I here? I have been living here for 10 years. Where else would I go?" Sumu says, "Why did you bring his car today?" Wang says, "I brought his car today." Just then, Wang gets a call from his girlfriend, and Wang tells her, "I came here to drop off my boss, and now I have come to give some documents to a colleague." So the girl says, "You are lying, aren't you?" So Wang starts giving her explanations, and Tian Tian says, "Pervert," and leaves. Wang's girlfriend hears this voice and says, "Whose voice is that girl's?" So Wang starts to tell her, but the girl cuts the call. We know that our Wang keeps making new girlfriends. Sumu starts to leave, so Wang follows him and starts bad-mouthing the girl. And then he says, "Sumu, what is going on between you and that girl?" Sumu says, "We are just neighbors." Wang says, "Neighbors? That's a good thing." Sumu says, "Do you like this girl?" Wang says, "Like her? Not at all. Whoever loves this girl will be very unlucky." Hearing this, Sumu starts to glare at him. Wang says, "Now why are you looking at me?" So Sumu starts looking over here. Then Wang softly asks, "Do you like that girl?" Sumu also goes near him and says, "That girl was right. You are foolish." Saying this, Sumu leaves. In the next scene, in the morning, Tian Tian gets ready and is going to the ice cream bar. Just then, Sumu comes there and says, "Hey, listen, where is my ice cream? Yesterday too, you didn't give it to me. I kept waiting." Tian Tian doesn't answer at first, but then, after going a little further, she says, "I'll send it in 2 hours." In the next scene, Tian Tian sends the ice cream to Sumu's house. Sumu eats that ice cream and becomes very happy and goes to the ice cream bar. Mumu says, "You are here again?" But she is not here. Sumu says, "Where has she gone?" Mumu says, "I don't know that." "Your relationship has become quite strong." Sumu says, "What relationship?" Mumu says, "The ice cream relationship." Sumu says, "You are right, but today she didn't give it." Mumu says, "Why don't you call and ask?" Sumu says, "I will not call. You give me the ice cream." Mumu says, "Okay, which one do you want? I will make it." Sumu says, "I want all of them." Mumu says, "Are you kidding? You want all of them?" Sumu says, "Yes, absolutely. Can you do this work alone?" Mumu says, "No." So he tells her, "Call Tian Tian." So Mumu calls Tian Tian and says, "We have a very big order." Tian Tian says, "Who came to take this order?" Mumu says, "Come here and see. You know him." your little brother. So Tian Tian says, I am busy right now, so you handle it yourself. Mumu says, okay, fine. Mumu says to Sumu, she is busy, she is not coming. I will do what I can. Do you still want everything? Sumu says, yes, I have made the payment. You make everything. In the next scene, Tian Tian's parents come back home. Li Di and Tian Tian bring them. Sumu is also watching all this. Tian Tian's parents offer Li Di food, but Li Di refuses and says, I have to propose tomorrow. You should come. Li Di's friend was going to propose to his girlfriend, but hearing all this, Sumu becomes sad. In the next scene, there is an anniversary party at Sumu's company, so Sumu tells Wang, have Tian Tian's shop serve the ice cream and cold drinks. That's why Tian Tian and Mumu get very dressed up and go to that company with attitude. And in front of Wang, Mumu places some ice cream and says, taste these. And you can see the rest of the flavors on the online website. So Wang tastes each ice cream one by one, and after tasting each ice cream, he makes a sound. So Tian Tian says, are you just gonna keep saying So Wang makes a bit of a strange face. Mumu says, what happened? Is there a problem? Wang says, are you the manager? Mumu says, yes. So Wang asks her, taste the ice cream. When Mumu tastes the ice cream, Wang says, let's sign the contract. In the next scene, the party starts. When Sumu and Mia enter together, everyone starts complimenting them on how good Sumu and Mia look. Hearing this, Tian Tian becomes very sad and goes and sits in the car. And then she takes off her jacket, comes back, and starts making ice cream. So Sumu sees her and goes to her. Tian Tian thinks it's Mumu, so she asks for her help. But as soon as she looks, Sumu says, you didn't give me ice cream for 2 days? Tian Tian says, I sent it with a person. Sumu says, but I like the one made by your hands. Tian Tian says, I was the one who made it. Sumu says, now I want one in a little while. In the next scene, Tian Tian makes ice cream for Mia and is going to give it to her, but just then, a child bumps into her, and the ice cream falls on Mia's dress. So Tian Tian says, sorry, to her. Mia says, it's okay, you can go from here. Just then, Sumu comes and puts his jacket on her. Seeing this, Tian Tian gets upset and goes and starts eating ice cream and drinking. Just then, Mia comes there and says, you didn't feel bad, did you? Tian Tian says, no, I wanted to say sorry to you. Mia says, if you are okay, then everything else is okay. Just then, Sumu comes there and says, where's my ice cream? Tian Tian says, I don't have that much time. Sumu says, you have time for everyone but not for me. Tian Tian says, don't you see how many people are here? Sumu says, I am talking about 2 days ago. Tian Tian says, I didn't have time 2 days ago either. I was helping a friend. Sumu says, oh, you were helping a friend? Tian Tian says, yes, I was in charge. You have a girlfriend, right? Tell her to make ice cream for you. Hearing this, Sumu starts to smile and says, so you ate my ice cream? Tian Tian says, yes, I ate it. So Sumu cleans the ice cream from Tian Tian's lips with his own lips. A very romantic scene is created here. Mia is shocked to see this, and when Sumu pulls back, Tian Tian also starts looking at him. So Sumu says, this is my sister Mia, and this is Tian Tian, our neighbor. Hearing this, Tian Tian is a little shocked, and Sumu says to her, I will meet you later. Let's go, sister. Now, after Sumu leaves, Tian Tian remains shocked right there. In the next scene, after the party is over, when Sumu is at his house, he sends a friend request to Tian Tian. His sister Mia is also sitting with him. She is talking to him, but Sumu only replies, yes. Seeing this, Mia gets angry and starts to leave from there, but Sumu stops her. But Mia says, no, and leaves. And over here, when Tian Tian sees the friend request, she becomes very happy and says to Mumu, should I reply to him? So Mumu tells her, no, you are a girl, so make him wait a little. But Tian Tian is very happy and replies to him. But from the other side, Sumu doesn't reply. So Mumu tells her, come on, let it be. But Tian Tian is not at peace. So she says to Mumu, can I ask him something? So Mumu says, yes, ask. So Tian quickly messages him, are you happy? So Sumu replies, yes. Seeing this, Tian Tian becomes very happy, but Mumu feels a little awkward and starts to leave from there. Tian Tian asks her to stay, but Mumu doesn't agree and leaves. Now, Tian Tian was just talking with Sumu, and looking at her, it seemed as if she had gone mad. Just then, Sumu sends her a voice message, let's go somewhere out. Tian Tian listens to this message again and again and then sends him a voice message. What do you want? Sumu says, your company. Hearing this, Tian Tian becomes very happy and says, should I say yes? In the next scene, Tian goes to meet Sumu at his studio. It is quite dark there, so Tian Tian gets a little scared. But just then, Sumu turns on the light, and it is a very beautiful studio. Tian is very happy to see it. Sumu tells her, you can make ice cream here. Just then, Tian Tian again makes ice cream for for him and goes and sits on the couch herself and starts listening to his voice. After listening to Sumu's voice again and again, Tian Tian falls asleep. So Sumu puts a blanket on her and adjusts it, and he himself sits next to her. When Tian Tian wakes up in the morning, she is very happy, and as soon as Sumu comes inside, she pretends to be asleep upon seeing him. But Sumu finds out, so he says, "If you are awake, then get up." Hearing this, Tian Tian replies immediately and later feels embarrassed. In the next scene, Tian Tian's parents have gone for a trip, so Tian Tian goes to Sumu's house to have breakfast with him. After having breakfast, Tian Tian starts painting, and some paint gets on her cheeks. And when Sumu sees this, he smiles and goes to her and says, "There is something on your cheeks. Let me clean it." Saying this, he puts paint on Tian Tian's other cheek as well, and leaves with a smile. But Tian Tian doesn't even know about this. After this, Tian Tian asks him to make ice cream. Hearing this, comes out of Sumu's mouth, so Tian Tian makes a bit of a sad face. So Sumu starts making ice cream for her. After some time, Sumu makes the ice cream and goes back to his work. Tian Tian, while eating ice cream, starts doing very cute antics. Sometimes she goes here, sometimes there. And then she asks Sumu, "When will Mr. Gao come?" So Sumu tells her, "Go outside and see." Tian Tian goes outside and understands that perhaps he got tired of her, so she starts sitting outside. Just then, the ice cream bowl falls down and breaks. So Tian Tian starts picking up the pieces of the bowl. Just then, Sumu comes and grabs her from the back of her shirt and lifts her up, and he himself goes and cleans the pieces of the bowl. Tian Tian is happy to see this, and then goes and sits inside by the mirror. And at that moment, she sees the paint on her face and is shocked. And to put paint on him too, she quietly goes near him and is just about to apply the color. But Sumu also quickly stands up, and the paint gets on Tian Tian's clothes. So Sumu brings his shirt and gives it to her and says, "Change into this." So Tian Tian changes into that dress and washes and hangs her own dress. Just then, Sumu's sister arrives there, so Tian Tian goes and hides. Mia is very happy to see the house and praises the house a lot. Then Mia starts to take water out of the fridge and, seeing the ice cream, says, "You shouldn't eat so much ice cream. You will get addicted." So Sumu says, "Actually, now I shouldn't eat it at all." And he goes and takes the ice cream out of the fridge and stands with Tian Tian and smiles looking at her. Mia says, "Does that girl come here to make ice cream too?" Sumu says, "Yes, absolutely." Mia says, "By the way, that girl is very cute and intelligent, but a little bit mischievous and crazy." Hearing this, Tian Tian looks at her angrily and takes the ice cream from in front of Sumu. So Sumu looks at her and says, "Really?" So Mia says, "By the way, you didn't like being around people at all, especially girls." Sumu says, "Is that so?" And then he sits down and kisses Tian Tian and takes the ice cream. And then Mia starts to leave and says to Tian, "You should sometimes do something other than your work, like watch TV, romantic stories, etc." And just then, Mia's eyes fall on Tian Tian's shirt, and she says, "Whose clothes are these?" Looking at the size, it seems they belong to a girl. So Sumu smiles and turns his face that way. So Mia says, "Okay, just think that I didn't say anything," and leaves. Now, as Sumu goes inside, Tian Tian says, "Listen, why did you kiss me again?" Sumu says, "Because you took my ice cream." Tian Tian says, "You were the one who said that you would absolutely not eat my ice cream." In the next scene, Wang introduces Sumu to a friend of his, who is Li Di. They all go to eat food together, and just then, Sumu sees Tian Tian so close to Li Di there and gets very jealous. After this, Tian Tian and Sumu are on a bus where Tian Tian's hair is bothering her a lot. Sumu sees her and ties her hair with his hands-free earpiece. Tian Tian becomes very happy, and just then the bus jerks a little fast, so Tian Tian hugs Sumu tightly. Tian Tian's heartbeat becomes fast, and they both start looking at each other. Just then, a couple passes between them, pushing them apart, which causes both to move back. And then they go and sit in an empty seat. So Sumu connects that hands-free to his mobile and puts one side in Tian Tian's ear and one in his own ear, and plays music. And then they both look at each other and smile and enjoy each other's company a lot, looking at each other. Now, after getting off the bus, when these two are walking, Sumu is talking to someone on a call. As soon as Tian starts to cross the road, Sumu grabs her hand because a bike is coming from the front. And then, he holds her hand and helps her cross the road herself. Seeing this, Tian Tian becomes very happy in her heart. In the next scene, Sumu's mother also comes to him. And the next day, Sumu takes his mom to a school seminar. And on the other side, Tian Tian had also gone to the same school with Li Di, and Tian Tian's mom also follows her and reaches there. Now, Tian Tian starts to buy fish from there, but when Tian asks for their cost, they are very expensive. Tian Tian asks them to reduce the cost, but the shopkeeper doesn't agree. Just then, Sumu's mom also comes there, and she likes the fish a lot, so she starts to take the fish. So Tian Tian says to Sumu's mom, "Don't take this fish. It's fake. It has paint on it." Hearing this, Sumu's mom refuses to take the fish. So Tian Tian says to the shopkeeper, "See, she didn't take the fish either. So neither yours nor mine, give me this fish for 500. so the shopkeeper agrees. In the next scene, Tian Tian goes to Li Di, and she is standing in line to get tickets. Just then, Li Di's partner comes to call him, so Li Di leaves. After Li Di leaves, Tian Tian's eyes fall on Sumu. So Tian Tian runs to Sumu and says to him, "How are you here? What are you doing?" Sumu says, "I came to drop off my mom." Tian Tian says, "Your mom?" Sumu says, "Yes, my mom's seminar was going on." Tian Tian says, "Where is your mom?" Sumu says, "She is over there." When Tian Tian sees Sumu's mom, she is left shocked and grabs Sumu's hand, tells him to run, and runs and hides behind a pillar. So Sumu says, "Why did you bring me here?" So Tian Tian tells him the whole story about the fish. So Sumu says, "What happened? Just tell her the truth." Tian Tian says, "The first impression is the most important. If I try to explain to her, things will get worse." Just then, as they are about to leave, Tian Tian's eyes fall on her mom. So Tian Tian again takes Sumu and hides behind the same pillar and puts her hand on Sumu. Sumu says, "Now what happened?" Tian Tian says, "My mom is there." Sumu says, "Why are you hiding like this after seeing her?" Tian Tian says, "Yesterday too she saw us together. If she sees us today, she will misunderstand." So Sumu says, "She will misunderstand?" And then they both start looking at each other lovingly. And just then, her mom also starts coming there. So Tian Tian takes Sumu and runs from there, and her mom also goes after them. Tian Tian takes Sumu to a library and says to Sumu, "Keep your voice down. Come on." But Sumu stands right there. So Tian Tian goes back, grabs his hand and says, "Let's go, come on." And then she takes Sumu and hides in a shelf in the library. Just then, her mom also goes to another shelf and looks from over the books, so Tian Tian hides. When Tian Tian is up, her mom sees her again. Tian Tian hides again, and this happens several times. Sumu laughs seeing this and then grabs her hand and moves forward, and he himself stands between the shelves. Tian Tian calls out, "Sumu!" Just then, Sumu pulls her and makes her stand between the shelves. Due to the lack of space, they both get very close, and both their heartbeats also become very fast. Just then, her mom also comes there and, after looking here and there, leaves. So Tian Tian and Sumu start looking into each other's eyes, and then when they both come out, they are feeling very awkward. In the next scene, Tian Tian's mom is standing. Just then, Sumu's mom is also standing there. So Sumu brings the car and goes to Tian Tian's mom and says, "Hello ma'am, how are you here?" So the mom says, "I came here for some work." Sumu's mom says, "Who is this?" Sumu says, "Mom, she is our neighbor. And ma'am, this is my mom." So Sumu's mom says, "Are you going home?" So Tian Tian's mom says, "Yes." So Sumu's mom says, "Let's go together then." So Tian Tian's mom says, "Yes, of course." In the next scene, Tian Tian and Sumu go to an island to meet Mr. Gao. There, after a lot of difficulties, a girl tells them, "Mr. Gao has gone to the beach." So Tian Tian and Sumu go to the beach. Tian Tian's foot gets injured, so Sumu tells her to sit there and goes to get a bandage. So Tian Tian starts making a face in the mud soil there. Then Tian Tian's fish goes into the water. When Tian Tian looks back, her fish is not there. Just then, her eyes fall on the fish, which is in the water. So Tian Tian goes into the sea to catch them. But just then, Sumu comes and gets very worried seeing Tian Tian in the water and runs to find her and starts calling out for Tian Tian. Just then, Tian Tian comes out of the water and Sumu hugs her. Sumu says, "Where did you go?" Tian Tian says, "I went to get the fish." Sumu says, "Who was more important, you or the fish?" Tian Tian says, "You must have thought I would drown, but I know how to swim. There is very little water here anyway." After this, Sumu is taking Tian Tian with him. Just then, Mr. Gao arrives, who is a very good friend of Tian Tian. So he sees these two and asks, "Hey, how are you two here?" So Tian Tian says, "We have come to meet you. You are not trustworthy. You promised that you would come to meet, but you didn't come that day either." Mr. Gao says, "I was missing my wife, so I came to my old house." And then Tian Tian gives him the fish, seeing which Mr. Gao becomes very happy. Now, when they all go to Mr. Gao's house, Mr. Gao tells Tian Tian to sit on the sofa, and he himself goes to get a bandage. So Sumu lifts Tian Tian and sits her on the couch. Just then, Mr. Gao brings the bandage and says, "Apply it quickly or there will be a lot of infection," and he himself leaves. So Sumu starts to clean Tian Tian's wound, which hurts Tian Tian a lot, and she grabs Sumu's hand very tightly, which also hurts Sumu. But Sumu doesn't say anything to her. Just then, Mr. Gao brings them clothes and says, "Change your clothes or you will catch a cold." So Tian Tian and Sumu go to change their clothes, and when Tian Tian is drying her hair, Sumu comes from behind and starts to dry her hair, and at the same time, both are smiling and also remembering their good moments. And then Tian Tian says, "Thank you," to him. Sumu says, "What did you say?" Tian Tian, stuttering a bit, says, "Thank you." So Sumu again gets close to her and says, "Say it again." Tian Tian says, "I said thank you so much." So Sumu says, "You are welcome." Both are very happy. In the next scene, Tian Tian, Sumu, Wang, Li Di, and Ding Yu, who is Li Di's baseball partner, all go camping. There, Sumu gets very jealous seeing Li Di and Tian Tian together. When Li Di and Tian Tian are fishing together, Sumu also gets very jealous seeing them and takes the stick from them and catches a fish. After a little while, Sumu catches a fish and says, "I also caught a fish," but no one pays attention to him. So Sumu comes to them and says, "I caught a fish. I will grill it." Wang says, "You came at the right time. Come on, you grill." Saying this, Wang and the rest start playing rock, paper, scissors. So Sumu gets very angry seeing this and puts a lot of spices on the fish and puts it near them. So Wang says, "This looks very spicy." Sumu says, "It's supposed to be like this." So Wang says, "Let's play one more game. In this game, we will pick one card each. If you don't know how to play, we will punish you." And then he gives one card to everyone, in which Tian Tian gets the king, and she gives the punishment that this girl has to eat the fish. Hearing this, Sumu smiles. Li Di says, "Who will have to eat it?" Tian Tian says, "Numbers 1 and 5 have to eat. Number 1 is Wang's, and number 5 is Sumu's," which shocks Sumu. When they both take one bite of the fish, they spit it out. Now it's Li Di's turn. So Wang says to punish himself and Ding Yu. So Li Di does the same and says, "Number 3 and 5 have to hug." And these are Wang and Ding Yu. So Wang starts to lift Ding Yu, but he can't lift her, so he just hugs her like that. Now this time it's Ding Yu's turn to give the punishment, so she says, "Tie the shoelaces of numbers 1 and 2, which are Li Di's and Tian Tian's." And when these two tie their shoelaces, Sumu gets very jealous seeing this. Now it's Wang's turn to give the punishment, who says, "Numbers 2 and 4 to do face-to-face push-ups, which are Li Di and Sumu." Both are shocked to hear this, but according to the game, they have to do it. When Sumu does a push-up when he is down, both Li Di and Sumu make a strange face and turn to the other side, which was very funny to watch. But Tian Tian is making a video of them and laughing. So Wang, embarrassed, makes an excuse of going to the washroom and leaves. Over here, Wang was also about to confess his love to Ding Yu, so he tells Li Di to go and set off fireworks. So Li Di takes Tian Tian and leaves. And when Li Di tells Tian Tian this, Tian Tian says, "Besides this, what other work could he have?" And over here, Wang is proposing to Ding Yu, and Li Di is also listening to their conversation on the phone. Wang is talking a lot of nonsense to her, so Tian Tian says, "He is talking such nonsense. I am leaving." Then Tian Tian goes and stands by the sea. Just then, Sumu comes from behind and says, "You?" So Tian gets scared and says, "You scared me. What are you doing here?" Sumu says, "You didn't come to meet me?" Tian Tian says, "I came here with Li Di to light fireworks." Sumu says, "Okay, then go." Tian Tian says, "Why are you always pouting?" Sumu says, "You are saying this? You have been pouting since morning." Tian Tian says, "When was I pouting?" Sumu says, "You have been pouting since yesterday without any reason." Tian Tian says, "Without any reason? This happened because of you and Huizi." Sumu says, "What did Huizi and I do? This is because of you and Li Di." Tian Tian says, "What are you trying to say? Li Di and I are just good friends. And are you and Huizi good friends? Sharing the ice cream I made?" Sumu says, "I don't share anything. And didn't you go fishing with Li Di holding hands?" Tian Tian says, "That's because everyone was playing a game. You are blaming me for no reason. And I don't share my ice cream with anyone. And now I won't make ice cream for anyone either." So Sumu pulls Tian Tian close and kisses her forcefully. Just then, Li Di also lights the fireworks. And then he says to her, "I used to think that I couldn't live without ice cream, but I can't live without you. Will you be my girlfriend?" Tian Tian just stands there shocked. So Sumu kisses her again. In the next scene, Li Di goes to Wang and says, "It seems I set off the fireworks at the right time." Wang says, "Yes, right time. It seems I was too hasty. Ding Yu is quite different from all the other girls. Now I am feeling embarrassed." Li Di says, "Hey, don't give up. I can do this work again." So Wang starts to glare at him. Just then, Sumu and Tian Tian come together, and Li Di says, "Where did you two go?" Tian Tian says, "We went to see the fireworks together. Did you guys see?" Ding Yu says, "Yes, but who did this?" Tian Tian says, "Wang did this for you." Wang says, "Come on, let it go now. What was meant to happen has happened." In the next scene, after coming back from camping, Tian Tian is getting very dressed up. Just then, her mom comes and says, "Why are you getting so dressed up?" Tian Tian says, "It's my first date, so I have to get ready." Just then, her mom starts looking at her, so Tian Tian says, "Mom, please stop looking at me. I'm feeling weird." So Tian Tian's mom starts to leave and then comes back and starts looking again. After this, Sumu also gets ready and goes to pick up Tian Tian in a new blue car. So Tian is shocked and says, "Before you used to ride a bicycle, but now a car? Do you drive a car to impress girls?" Sumu says, "I got this car from a scholarship." I haven't driven it since it arrived, and no one has even sat in it. So Tian Tian says, oh, am I the first girl to sit in this car? Sumu says, yes. So Tian Tian happily gets into the car, and Sumu also gets into the car. Both are very happy, and then Sumu also kisses Tian Tian. In the next scene, Sumu takes Tian Tian to watch a horror movie. Tian Tian says, this is a horror movie. Sumu says, yes, I asked Wang, and he said that girls love horror movies, especially when they are alone. That's why I booked the whole hall. Are you scared? Tian Tian says, no, I am not scared. Sumu says, when you get scared, tell me. Just then, a horror scene comes, and Sumu quickly holds the popcorn in front of him. So Tian Tian says, are you scared? Sumu says, no, the light was going into my eyes, so I did this. Just then, a very scary scene comes, and Sumu gets very scared and starts to scream. Seeing this, Tian Tian starts to laugh and starts to scare him even more, and she deliberately screams herself, which scares Sumu even more. Now, after going outside, Sumu feels embarrassed. Just then, he gets a call from the office. So Sumu says, I have some work at the office, but I will make dinner for you tonight, which makes Tian Tian happy. In the next scene, Sumu goes to the office and Tian Tian goes to the ice cream shop. There, two employees from Sumu's company come who are talking about Sumu. He has become so strange. He keeps laughing. Those two make a lot of comments about Sumu. Hearing this, Tian Tian gets angry. She goes to them and says, I am Sumu's girlfriend. Hearing this, the employees start laughing and say, in that case, we are Sumu's girlfriends. Just then, Sumu comes from behind and the employee says, Mr. Sumu, she says she is your girlfriend. Hearing this, Sumu says to Tian Tian, why did you say that? I thought you didn't even accept me. Hearing this, both employees are shocked. And then Sumu says, so should I consider you mine? Okay, from today, no, from right now, I am your boyfriend. So what are we waiting for? We will have dinner together tonight. Let's go. I'll go with you too. In the next scene, Tian Tian is standing in Sumu's house. Just then, Sumu brings food there, and Tian Tian says, wow, this looks so tasty. So Sumu asks her, sit down. Tian Tian says, hey, why didn't you make dessert? Sumu says, you want dessert? And then Sumu lifts Tian's face and kisses her and says, wasn't that sweet? So Tian Tian smiles, and then they both have dinner. Sumu says, from today we are officially boyfriend and girlfriend, and we will never… Just then, Tian Tian gets a call from her mom, and after her call, Tian Tian says, yes, so what were you saying? The two of us. Sumu says, from today, we can go home together and have breakfast. So Tian smiles. In the next scene, in the morning, when Tian Tian wakes up, Sumu is sitting in front of her. Tian Tian sees him and hugs him tightly. Just then, her mom enters the room and feels embarrassed seeing them hugging. She doesn't understand what to do, so she first goes out and then comes back in, and then goes out again and comes back in and says, breakfast is ready. Come downstairs, and quickly closes the door and leaves. Seeing this, Tian Tian also feels embarrassed and hides her face with a blanket. So Sumu looks at her and starts laughing. In the next scene, Tian Tian is sitting with her mom and dad and says, Sumu cooked for me, but I didn't do anything for him. So Tian's mom says, no problem, dad will tell you everything. Just then, her dad teaches her how to cook, but Tian Tian cooks very bad food. Looking at the appearance of the food, her mom and dad don't eat the food. So Tian Tian says, now what should I do for Sumu? So her dad says, you invite Sumu for lunch. I will cook the food. You just talk. So Tian Tian says, okay, I will call him. After this, Tian Tian takes a mail and goes to Sumu's house. As soon as Sumu comes out, he says, what happened? Tian Tian says, the thing is, my parents have invited you for lunch. Come at 12 o'clock. Just then, Sumu looks up, and Tian's parents say, hi, to him. So Sumu also says, hi, to them. And then Sumu says, so it's a meeting with them? Tian Tian says, no, they just invited you for lunch. Sumu says, just for lunch? Tian Tian says, if you don't want to come, you can say no. Saying this, Tian Tian hides her face. Sumu removes the mail from her face and kisses her forcefully. So Tian shyly leaves from there. In the next scene, Sumu arrives at Tian Tian's house at exactly 12 o'clock, where Tian Tian is still brushing her teeth. When Sumu is sitting with Tian Tian's parents, the three of them are feeling awkward. Just then, Tian Tian's voice is heard, Dad, the brush fell in the toilet. So Tian Tian's dad is embarrassed. So Sumu says, I know she is very cute. Just then, Sumu says, Uncle, you like telegraphy? So Tian's dad says, yes, come on, I'll show you. And then the dad shows Sumu his telegraphy. Just then, Tian Tian's voice is heard, Dad, the faucet broke again. So the dad says, I'll call the plumber. So Sumu says, Uncle, I can fix it. After this, when Sumu is fixing the faucet, Tian Tian says, oh, you came wearing a suit? What was the need to wear a suit? Sumu says, I have a meeting after lunch, and I didn't have time to change my clothes, so I wore this. Tian Tian says, oh, but your house is nearby, so it doesn't take that long. Sumu says, you talk so much. I don't talk at all while working. So Tian starts looking at him lovingly and says, I'll help you. And just then she turns on the shower, due to which Sumu gets wet. Tian Tian says, sorry, I didn't do it on purpose. So Sumu looks at her and smiles, and then starts to kiss her again. So Tian Tian says, why did you kiss me again? Saying this, Tian Tian also starts to kiss him. Now, as soon as they both come downstairs, the dad says, is the faucet fixed? And those two are just smiling at each other. So the dad says, why are you laughing? Is the faucet fixed? So Tian Tian says, yes, it's fixed, but we got wet. So the dad says, go and dry his hair. The mom says, yes, or he will catch a cold. After this, when Tian Tian takes Sumu to the room and goes to get the hairdryer herself, just then, Sumu's eyes fall on that chip. So Sumu says, oh, so this is why the aircraft was coming towards her. Just then, Tian Tian brings the hairdryer and is drying his hair. So Sumu is smiling looking at her. Tian Tian says, why are you laughing? Just then, Sumu kisses her again. Now, after having dinner, Sumu starts to go to his house and says to Tian Tian, my mom has arrived. You should come to meet her. In the next scene, Tian Tian gets very well dressed and goes to meet Sumu's mom. So the mom smiles, seeing her. Both are feeling awkward. Then Tian Tian says, sorry about the fish incident. So Sumu's mom says, no problem. Your IQ level is amazing, which is good for the next generation. And then Sumu goes with Mia to cook food, and Mia says, let it be, I will do it. So Mia also leaves from there and says, he is very irritating. So Tian Tian says, I will cook with him. Mia says, he has OCD. Tian Tian says, no problem, I can do it. Now, Tian Tian and Sumu have a lot of fun while cooking. Mia and her mom feel awkward seeing this. Now, after the food is cooked, when Tian Tian is about to go home in the evening, she says, today was a very bad day. I wore these kinds of clothes and couldn't even cook. So Sumu says, by the way, I heard your IQ level is good. Tian Tian says, you are teasing me, right? That's why I went to change clothes with you, and I will definitely learn to cook, and then I will cook good food for you. So Sumu starts laughing. Tian Tian says, now don't laugh like that. What are you going to do? So Sumu moves a little forward. Tian Tian puts her hand on his lips and says, no, now we have met each other's parents. Now we are grown up. We will not behave like children. So Sumu says, so what will we do next? Tian Tian says, just don't cross this line. You understand, right? Sumu nods his head. So Tian says, you have to understand, and saying, good night, she leaves. Sumu also starts to leave, so Tian Tian calls out to Sumu and comes and starts to kiss him. Just then, Li Di sees all this. So Tian goes home and tells him everything. Hearing this, Li Di feels bad. Here we find out that Li Di also likes Tian Tian a lot, so Li Di leaves sadly. Now Li Di goes to a place and cries a lot. In the next scene, Li Di is drinking a lot at a bar. Just then, Mia comes there and says, why are you drinking so much? Li Di says, it's not that much. So Mia says, could this be because of Sumu and Tian Tian? So Li Di says, this is my fault. I am a coward. That's why I have nothing. Mia likes his words. Li Di says, Tian Tian has only ever considered me a friend, nothing more. But whatever it is, we will always be friends. But I lost. Hearing this, Mia becomes happy and, smiling, says, when you never thought of winning, then when did you lose? In the next scene, Sumu goes to Beijing for a business trip, so Tian misses him a lot from behind. Sometimes she dances, sometimes does something else, sometimes something else. She misses him a lot. Just then, she gets a video call from Sumu, so Tian Tian says, I missed you so much, you should have taken me with you. Sumu says, I missed you a lot too, but what would you do here? I am at work all day. Tian Tian says, you would come home at night. We would be together. So Sumu says, what would you have done at night? And just then, Sumu starts to take off his shirt. So Tian Tian takes a screenshot of him and, after the call ends, looks at his body. In the next scene, Tian Tian also starts to go to Beijing, but Sumu goes back to his city from Beijing. Tian Tian doesn't know this, so she goes to the hotel and asks for the room number, but just then, she gets a call from Sumu. So Tian Tian says, I have come to Beijing for an interview, and I am standing in your hotel. Where are you? Sumu says, I am standing outside the ice cream shop. Tian Tian says, outside the ice cream shop? Sumu says, yes, I am really there. I came to surprise you. And then Wang takes Tian Tian to that room. In the next scene, Tian Tian goes for an interview, and the judge really likes her painting and concept. So they tell Tian Tian to join classes in 1 week, which makes Tian Tian sad, and she is leaving. Just then, Sumu is standing there. Tian Tian is surprised to see him and says, how are you here? Sumu says, didn't I tell you that I would come to pick you up after the interview? Hearing this, Tian Tian hugs Sumu. So Sumu says, how was the interview? Tian Tian says, it was good. In the next scene, Ding Yu calls Wang. Wang comes and Ding Yu says, why are you nervous? Wang says, I am crazy. That's why I kept fooling everyone. I am a fool. Dingyu says, I like fools. Wang says, I am a fool. Does that mean you like me? Dingyu says, you are a fool. And then Wang is just about to get close to her, but then he steps back. So Dingyu grabs him and kisses him. Seeing this, Wang becomes very happy, and then they both hug each other. In the next scene, Tian Tian and Sumu go to the beach at night to see the stars. There, Tian Tian says, you said that we would see the stars, but there are no stars here. Sumu says, you will see shooting stars in a little while. Tian Tian says, shooting stars? Then we can make a video. Take out your phone. So Sumu starts laughing. Tian Tian says, why are you laughing? Take out your phone. We have to make a video. Sumu says, okay. And then Tian says, when I was little, I used to sit on the beach many times. My mom would ask me, why are you sitting here? I would say, I want to go to the other side of the sea. Mom would say, when you grow up, you will understand everything. And slowly, I grew up and also understood the world. It is very beautiful, but I like my home very much. Hearing this, Sumu starts to sing a song. So Tian starts to smile and remembers every moment spent with Sumu. When the song ends, Tian Tian says, so you know how to sing too? Sumu says, I know everything. Just then, shooting stars appear, and Tian says, come on, take a photo. No, make a wish. So Sumu smiles and turns her face towards him and kisses Tian Tian. So Tian Tian says, such a sudden kiss? Sumu says, yes, this is how shooting stars grant our wishes. So Tian Tian starts to smile. In the next scene, Tian Tian decides to go to London. So her mom says, did you two have a fight? So Tian Tian says, no mom, I thought a lot about this. This is a tough decision. Sumu is very good to me. That's why I couldn't make this decision, but whatever happens, if I believe in him, then time and place cannot change our love, unless he changes. And besides, I don't just love Sumu, I love myself too, my dreams too, my life too. Hearing these words, Tian's mom says, daughter, you have grown up now. So the dad says, I am proud of my daughter. I am really proud of you, dear. Mumu says, now when are you going? Tian Tian says, the check-in time is the day after tomorrow. Dad says, but you have to go tomorrow, and you have to pack too. Mumu says, okay, so you will go tomorrow? Have you told Sumu? Tian Tian says, I just made this decision, and I don't know if it's right or not. So her dad says, son, do one thing. Talk to Sumu right now and tell him to drop you off at the airport tomorrow. So Tian Tian calls Sumu and says, hello, Sumu. I have decided to study in London. I am leaving tomorrow. Sumu says, I am busy. Hearing this, Tian Tian becomes sad. And Tian Tian made this decision because of the words of one of her mom's friends, who gave up her career for her husband, and now she cleans a mall. In the next scene, Mia calls Li Di to a restaurant. When Li Di goes to the restaurant, he asks Mia, why did you call me here? Mia says, I need to talk to you about something important. Mia says, I like you. So Li Di, laughing, says, did I hear that right? So Mia says again, I like you very much. It all seemed like a dream to Li Di, so he says, you are afraid that I will cause a breakup between Tian Tian and Sumu. But I have already told you this, I am not that foolish. Mia says, that's not what I meant. I am just sharing my heart's feelings. Since the last time we met at the bar, I have only been thinking about you. So Li Di says, are you also like your brother? Mia says, yes, I am. But I want to win, so I am not afraid of losing. Li Di, laughing, says, look, the thing is, I have never seen you in that way. Mia says, no problem. You treat me just as you do, but I will treat you as my boyfriend because I like you, right? Li Di says, look, Mia-ji, when we don't know each other, how can we love? Mia says, Sumu and Tian Tian also didn't know each other, but they still love each other, right? You don't need time to love. You need feelings. Okay, tell me, do you have feelings for me? Li Di says, I am confused about you. So Mia starts laughing. In the next scene, Wang takes Tian Tian and her parents to the airport. So Tian Tian's dad says, son, we could have gotten a cab ourselves. What was the need for this? Wang says, Sumu is very busy, so he told me to drop you off at the airport. In the next scene, Tian Tian goes to Sumu's house, and it is dark all around. Just then, a light turns on, and Mia and Li Di are standing there. So Tian Tian talks to them, but they don't answer. Just then, a little further, another light turns on, and Wang and Ding Yu are standing there. Tian Tian goes to them, but they also don't give any answer. Just then, a third light turns on, and Huizi and Sumu's mom are standing there. They also don't say anything. A little further, another light turns on. Tian Tian's parents and Mu Mu are standing there. Tian Tian says, why are you all ignoring me? What happened, Mu Mu? Where is Sumu? Why are you not telling me? Just then, many light balloons fly in the sky. Tian is very happy to see them. Just then, Sumu comes from behind and says, foolish girl, I am always with you, always. Tian happily hugs him. Now we see a scene from the past where Sumu asks Tian Tian's mom for help and says, we will not let Tian waste this opportunity. That's why he asks her for one help. And all this was done by Sumu and Tian Tian's mom by paying that woman. Now, in the present scene, Tian Tian says, "Do you remember that day when I was very upset? And look at this photo, how ugly I look." And then Tian Tian says, "Okay, listen. When the shooting stars happened, you didn't make a wish." Sumu says, "What wish did you make?" Tian Tian says, "Whatever I asked for has come true." So Tian pulls him close and kisses him forcefully. In the next scene, in the morning, when Tian Tian wakes up, she feels shy seeing herself in Sumu's bed and becomes very happy. Just then, Sumu sees her. After this, Tian Tian and Sumu hug each other, and they both look at each other lovingly. And right here, our lovely drama has a happy ending.